Looking for the perfect summer decor to brighten up your space? This cute watermelon tissue holder is exactly what you need. In this video, I'll show you how to crochet it from start to finish. It's an incredibly simple project, specially designed with detailed instructions for beginners. Let's dive in and make your summer a little more colorful. For this project, you'll need 5-ply milk cotton yarn in the colors shown on the screen, a 3.0mm crochet hook, a pair of scissors, a tapestry needle, and 2 wooden buttons. I've linked all the materials in the description box below. If you need to stock up on yarn, buying through those links is a wonderful way to support my channel. Let's begin with part 1, the watermelon rind. Starting with the light green yarn. Make a slip knot. And chain 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 9. Insert your hook into the second chain from the hook and make a single crochet. Continue to make one single crochet in each remaining chain until you reach the end of the row. Chain 1 and turn your work to begin row 2. In the very first stitch right next to the chain, work 2 single crochets into the same stitch. From now on, we'll call this an increase. Next, work 6 single crochets across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in the very last stitch, work another increase. Chain 1 and turn your work to start the next row. Since we'll be doing this at the beginning of every new row, I'll skip repeating it from now on to keep things smooth. For row 3, simply work 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way to the end. For row 4, work 1 increase. Next, work 8 single crochets across. 1, 2, 3, 8. And finish with another increase in the very last stitch. For row 5, simply work 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way to the end of the row. Once you finish this row, we're going to change the yarn color. My preferred way to do this is by cutting the green yarn here. However, if you have a favorite color changing method that you usually use, please feel free to use that instead. Attach the dark green yarn into the very last single crochet stitch. Chain 1 and turn your work as usual. Now, for this row, start with an increase. As you crochet, remember to work over these yarn tails to hide them as you go. Then work 10 single crochets across. 2, 3, 4, 10, and finish with another increase in the final stitch. For row 7, simply work 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way to the end of the row. After finishing row 7, cut the yarn and switch back to the light green color. For this next row, start with an increase. Then work 12 single crochets across. And finish with another increase in the very last stitch. For row 9, just work 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way to the end of the row. For row 10, work an increase in the first stitch. Then crochet 14 single crochets across. And finish with another increase in the very last stitch. Moving on to row 11, you will simply work 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way to the end of the row. Now, let me explain a little bit here. As we've worked through the previous rows, you might have noticed our color changing pattern, 4 rows of light green followed by 2 rows of dark green. This is what creates that beautiful watermelon rind effect. We'll continue this exact sequence until the rind is finished. For rows 12 through 17, just continue with the progressive increases along with the color changes. To make it super easy for you, I'll leave the exact formula right here on the screen. Feel free to pause the video, follow the pattern, and I'll meet you back here once you've finished row 17. Let's continue with row 18. Switch back to the dark green yarn and work 1 single crochet into each stitch across. From row 18 all the way through row 26, the pattern will be exactly the same, which means we won't be doing any more increases. I'll put the exact color formula on the screen so you can easily keep track of the color changes. I'll meet you back here once you've finished row 26. Now that we've finished row 26, let's begin row 27 using the light green yarn. Start this row with a decrease. Then work 20 single crochets across. Finish the row by working another decrease in the last 2 stitches. For row 28, simply work 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way to the end of the row. Row 29, make a decrease. Followed by 18 single crochets. And work a decrease in the final 2 stitches. At this point, go ahead and cut the yarn and switch to the dark green. From row 30 all the way through row 41, you will continue decreasing progressively and changing colors. As usual, I will have the complete formula right here on the screen so you can easily follow along. I'll meet you back here once you've finished row 41. Now that we've finished row 41, there's just one last technique left. We're going to crochet a border around the bottom of this watermelon rind. It's super simple, all you need to do is work single crochets all the way around the entire base. Just remember to keep switching your yarn colors to match the watermelon rind pattern. In total, we will have 98 stitches. To make the final piece look neat and beautiful, I've made sure to keep all the woven-in yarn tails tucked onto one side. This means the clean, opposite side will face forward as the right side for the single crochets we are about to make. After finishing the border, slip stitch to join and cut the yarn. And just like that, our bag base is completely finished. Welcome back to part 2. In this section, we'll be crocheting the middle section of the bag body, which is the final part of the watermelon rind, before switching to the juicy red flesh. Let's start fresh and call this row 1. Using your lime green yarn, insert your hook into the very first single crochet stitch. Chain 1. Work a single crochet into that same stitch. And then simply single crochet in each stitch across to the end of the row. Once you reach the end of the row, join the round with a slip stitch into the very first single crochet. Now, go ahead and cut the yarn so we can switch to our next color. For row 2, we'll be using the white yarn. Just like before, insert your hook into the first single crochet stitch. Chain 2. And work a half double crochet into that same stitch. Then, work one half double crochet in each remaining stitch all the way to the end of the row. As you crochet, remember to work over those yarn tails to keep your project looking neat and tidy. When you reach the end, slip stitch to join, then fasten off and cut the yarn. Moving on to row 3 with our lightest pink yarn. You will continue working this row using single crochets. At the end of the row, go ahead and join the round, fasten off, and cut the yarn as usual. Next, let's switch to a darker shade of pink than the one we just used. For this row, you will continue working one half double crochet into each stitch across. When you reach the end of the row, join the round and cut the yarn as usual. Now, we're going to move on to the watermelon flesh, which is also the main body of the bag. Switch to your red yarn to work this section. Chain 3. And work a double crochet into that same stitch. Then, continue working one double crochet into each remaining stitch all the way to the end of the row. Join the row with a slip stitch into the top of the very first double crochet. chain 3. Then work a double crochet into each of the first 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to create the watermelon seeds like this. Chain 1. Skip 1 stitch, double crochet in the next stitch. Then work 5 more double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, we have a total of 6 double crochets here. Next, chain 1 and skip the next stitch. From here, you will simply repeat this pattern, 6 double crochets, chain 1, skip 1 stitch, all the way to the end of the row. I'll have the complete formula right on the screen for you. After finishing this row, go ahead and join with a slip stitch into the top of the first double crochet. Row 3 is very simple. You will just repeat row 1 by working 1 double crochet into every single stitch all the way to the end. We're almost finished, so please stay tuned and keep watching with me until the very end. For row 4, work a double crochet into each of the first 2 stitches. Chain 1, skip the next stitch. And then repeat our main pattern, 6 double crochets, chain 1, skip 1 stitch all the way to the end of the row. Crocheting this way creates a beautiful staggered effect for the watermelon seeds, giving the bag a very aesthetic and clean look. And when you reach the end of the row, you'll have 4 stitches remaining. Just work 1 double crochet into each of these last 4 stitches, and then join the round. Here is the next important note: you will repeat the entire sequence from row 1 to row 4 2 more times. This will give us a total of 12 rows for the red section, which is exactly what we need to get the right height for the main body of our bag. I'll see you guys back here once I finish completing the body of the bag. Hey there, I'm back after finishing up the body of our bag. Now, we just have one super simple step left to complete it, and that is sewing 2 wooden buttons onto these 2 spots right here. Tajda! We have officially completed our watermelon-shaped tissue bag. I'm honestly so happy with how it turned out. Now, let's try putting some tissues inside and see how it looks. What do you think? Do you like this watermelon tissue bag? And did you find my tutorial easy to follow? Please leave a comment below to let me know. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and making this bag today. Happy crocheting, everyone!